Hi, this is Kim Paint Me and welcome to my channel. Alrighty, so today I finished up coloring the Little Warchief here, and I just transferred it onto the shirt, and I'll tell you what I found and what I've learned. And here we go. There's the big reveal. You were with me yesterday. You saw both of us colored. Okay, here we go. Bam. Alright. So my experiment with the gradient worked. You can kind of see it in the face area where I had taken a little marker here and then used like a bit of plastic, rubbed it on here, used a brush pen from here, and it is wet. This here is a Zig fabric color marker. It's a blender, and I just dabbed it here and applied it there, and when I apply it I have to move it as I go, or else it'll leave like a big mark, and it worked. I got like a bit of gradients going on here, and it transferred over here. It's a lot softer. Where the pen is directly applied, it's like dark and heavy, but when it's applied lightly with the gradient, with the fabric blender, you know, just the whole thing is about control. You gotta be able to control how much comes out, and you don't really have that when you're using your marker. So that's basically what I learned, and I'm going to. Oh, another thing I learned, when you print out your image, if you have anything around here, anything on the edge, you know, from the printout, it's going to show up in yellow. Did not know that. So, like, I had like a stray mark here, and that was probably supposed to be part of the tail that I didn't color, and it showed up yellow. The outline here for the circle, because I was going to outline the circle, it showed up yellow here. Even in the name it showed up yellow. So after I wash this, I'm going to see if it stays. It'll take a few days. I think I have to wait like either 24 hours to 72 hours. I usually wait 3 days before I wash anything that I've applied. It's a good rule of thumb. Anything that I've applied paint or marker to, I wait like 72 hours. And then I'll toss it in the wash. But I like how it came out. It's very vibrant. Like right here it's really dull, so you don't really get the full effect. And I'll just put them kind of side by side. So I wanted her to have like these blue lips, and even just like a little bit of a gradient going on there, where I left a little bit of the white showing. Worked out pretty good. Had I not outlined the nose, it probably would have just showed up yellow, and who knows if it's going to wash out or not. So I'll find out soon if it's going to wash out. Now from this point, on this particular shirt, I'm just going to leave as is. But because this is going to be an experimental shirt, this is a brand new 3X shirt, and I always like to sleep in my mistakes before I create other ones. But yeah, everything kind of transferred over the way I wanted. Like in the letter A, I didn't outline the inside here of the A, so it didn't show up, but it shows up yellow on the picture. So I'm just gonna hold that up and go it down a little bit. Yeah, so it just shows up yellow. So I'm like, and there's the outline. That was from the printout. So if I have something with the printout on it, I'm gonna have to cut that out. So anything that I don't want on my print to show on here, I gotta either cut it out, or not put it onto the image that I'm going to transfer. But basically it did what I wanted. It gave me a transfer. I inked it in, and then went ahead and did this. If I do this again, I would take my fabric markers and just go ahead and clean it up, like these right here. You know what? I think I'll do that. We'll do that in this video right here. Let me go grab my embroidery hoop and we'll get started. And I'll show you how I would, you know what? Let's go ahead and clean this up just for giggles. Let's see. Alright, so yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this. Before I was going to try it out on like a regular cotton shirt, but I'm like, you know what, let me try this on one of my shirts. But yeah, I'm really impressed. So the trick is to leave it on. Make sure that if you're going to print out your image and color it, make sure you don't have anything that you don't want to show up. And I'll let you know in a few days. I'll probably wash it Sunday. Today's Friday. I'll probably wash this Sunday and see if this comes out. And if it does, cool. It's not a deal breaker. It happened on here too, but I didn't realize it when I had done this particular shirt. So right now I'm just taking the embroidery hoop off of this shirt. And I have my little board. And I think pretty much this board is going to be just to protect the back of the shirt, because I'll have the shirt tight enough so that the ink will go on, but it won't come off. Well, it won't go on and it won't bleed. If this is on the back of it, it'll bleed onto this. So just to do a quick recap from this week, I had tried different types of paper to transfer. The only reason why it's a little faded is because I didn't leave it on for 80 seconds. This one, I definitely left it on for the full 80 seconds at 385. I think that's what I have it set to, 385 for 80 seconds. And then I left it alone. I didn't lift up anything. You know, like you have to put the cover over it. You know, you put this down, and you put like cardstock over it. I didn't mess with anything. I just left it alone until I knew it was cool, and lifted it up, and there we are. So I guess that's how you get your best results, is just go ahead and do it that way. Coloring techniques, if you want to try to do this in all in one shot, I'll show you how I will color Usopp, and how I did it like this to get that gradient. And I tried my best not to rip up my paper. It was coming up a little bit right here, but you really can't tell. It's not as deep and dark. And when I said that it's better to do something like an anime type or manga type when you're using these markers, the simpler the design, the easier the markers take it when you're not trying to blend stuff. Solid colors work the best, you know, because mangas don't have that hardcore gradients, not a lot of them. So it looks really good when the colors are solid. And then there's another solid color, you know, without having gradients or anything like that. In the eyes, you have one color black, and then you have maybe a little slip of another color, and that works great. So solid colors, if that's how you color, is perfect. But when you start moving into doing two colors, it doesn't blend and it's not smooth. So I'll show you what I do with fabric markers, and then I'll show you what I do on the paper, because I'm going to put this one every time I do one of these type of images. I'm going to use it on this shirt. It won't be a brand new shirt that I use, because Kim is going to sleep in her mistakes. Okay, so to use an embroidery hoop, and this is just to keep this thing from sliding all over the place and giving you headaches. The embroidery hoop usually has a little lip on the end to catch the other end that goes over it. This one you have the lip right underneath the shirt, and it'll even tell you along the hoop if you're using this one. This one I bought from Walmart for about $3, like $2.49, whatever. It says this side up, printed on it, this side up. I don't even know if you guys can see it. I can't see it. Can you see it? Can you smell what the rocket's cooking? I can't see it. Anyway, regardless, it says this side up. And then what that means is you slip it under your shirt or your fabric. You just go ahead and place it right under here. And sometimes I gather it underneath, kind of make it taut, so you can kind of get it centered to where you want it. And I've got different sizes of hoops to get it where I want it. If you're drawing directly onto here, you don't want to stretch out your fabric, but now that I've already got an image on here, I can stretch it out any way I want, and it's not going to do anything to it. But when you're putting on a design and you stretch it out, when you bring the fabric back to its normal size, it'll be distorted. It'll either like be stretched out this way, or it will look really funky. Now when the shirt is on here and you don't have it too stretched out, it is transparent. So like if you need to put something on here, you can put an image underneath. Let me see, something I can just toss in here. Like say I need to put my lettering in there. I don't know if you can tell, but it is transparent, and I can see the letters to transfer it in. You can see it very faintly, but once I put a light underneath this, you can see it like perfect. Okay, enough dilly-dallying. And I'm thinking when I do this for my friend, either I'm going to put it onto a coaster, which means it's going to be smaller, and I'll get rid of the circle, or I'll just go ahead and get rid of the circle, or incorporate the circle, since if the yellow does not doesn't go away in the wash, I'll incorporate that into the picture, because I don't think I can draw a perfect circle. It might be a little wobbly, or I would draw my circle with the hoop here. And I've got a couple different sizes. Okay, so now that I've got my hoop attached, you go ahead and you would go ahead and put this over it, and you tighten it. And the lip is like right here, so it's going under the lip, and it's holding the shirt in place. And you know it's pretty good when you can kind of like bounce your finger on it, kind of like a tambourine. So it can be pulled tight if you want when you have your image already on here. Again, you see how it's already distorting her face? If you drew this is blank, and you drew this, all the fabric comes back together, it'll distort your image. So if you are going to draw directly onto your fabric, kind of put it on there, but don't put it too tight. Okay, I'm gonna get my little board because I don't want anything to bleed onto the other side. And I'm thinking I'm going to use purple and blue. Now my fabric markers, I have several different types. I do have favorites, but a lot of my favorites aren't, they don't have a big variety inside of it. So like, and then some of them are obsolete. The Stain by Sharpie comes in like some basic colors, but the yellow sucks. The yellow's like a fluorescent, but the red and the blue is pretty freaking awesome. The red, the blue, and the green. And they're expensive as hell. Those are pretty much obsolete. Boxes. Okay, they're on the floor. Okay. Now with t-shirts like this, I prefer to use markers. With the light colored shirts and stuff like that, I prefer to use markers. Darker colored shirts, heavier shirts, well, darker colored fabric and like canvas bags, things like that, I prefer to use like fabric paint, and I do not ever recommend using acrylic paint ever. It's too, what's the word, if you've ever worn a painting, it's stiff. If you want to paint on shirts, you want to use like fabric paint, okay? Do not use, and there is like a paint medium that you can mix in with your acrylic. I just spend the money and get the frickin' fabric paint. Tulip has a line of fabric paints. Walmart carries fabric paints. They're not that expensive. A little goes a long way. But don't use, if you can help it, do not use acrylic paint. You will regret it. If it doesn't wash out, it might flake off. And what sucks is, like, say you're working on your stuff, you put a base of acrylic white paint down, and then you put another paint on it because when you have a dark fabric, in order for your paints to sit on top without it, because the dark fabric will suck up your paint. But if you have a base on the bottom of it, you can layer your colors on top and pretty much get away with doing a dark fabric. I made the mistake of using acrylic paint onto fabric, like a jacket, hoodie, and my image was totally messed up. When I went to put the other paints on, totally messed it up. It started flaking off. You want to see a grown woman cry? Freaking use acrylic paint. Okay, so I use Tulip fabric markers. I use, these aren't my favorite here because it's got a chisel tip, but it's the first thing I grabbed, so I'll use it. We'll use a little bit of pink, but this one is, these are Marvi Uchida graffiti fabric markers. These bees are awesome. But if you're going to get these, get it with like this little tip, and it's got a picture of this tip on it. Let me bring it back down. With this kind of tip, you don't really want the chisel tip. I wouldn't get it, and I don't know, I just don't like chisel tips. Another set of markers that I love are the Arteza brand markers. If you can find these, holy crap, get them. This was from I think it was like a 26 set. It has a brush tip on one end, well, kind of like a bullet tip. It's pretty awesome. It's got the chisel tip on the other end, but yeah, it is what it is. But this kind of tip, it's fat and it's got thin, you know, you can work with it. Let's see, I'm not going to do flesh tone. She's going to have a bluer flesh tone. There's a video out there where someone is doing like a, they take the Tulip fabric marker and they use it like a watercolor. Whatever you do, and I don't use this one as like a watercolor, but whatever you do, do not mix water with this. It will wash out over time. I did blend with a water and the stain by Sharpie, because I needed to make brown and I needed to have brown skin tones, and I mixed these stain by Sharpies. I used one like as a base and then orange blended in, and other colors like red and things like that blended in with these, and I managed to make brown. The only thing is, like, after 5 years in washing, hell, it didn't even last 5 years. I think it lasted about 3 years. The colors of the skin washed out. All those beautiful colors that I had done mixed with water washed out. But the ones that I mixed with each other, the markers that, like say I took pink and orange and mixed them together and to get a flesh tone, those stayed. The brown colors, like I mixed this with a flesh tone, they stayed. But all my little white people like washed out because I used water to dilute, not to dilute, but to blend. And goes on, looks beautiful, but over time it will wash out because you've just broken down the marker. You know what it takes to stay onto a fabric. Okay, enough of that belly aching. I want to put it onto one of my videos, or every video from here on. Let's see, we'll color her hair. Let's see, so I got purple, pink, red, and I want it like a light blue or purple. Now, say you need to make a skin tone, maybe like a blue, but your blues are still dark. Take a little bit of fabric paint. Get yourself like something that's like a little palette. Put your blue down. Put a little bit of the paint. You can even use a paintbrush. Mix it together, and then till you get the color that you want, and then apply it onto there. Paint is kind of heavy for a t-shirt. I don't know how you feel about having something heavy on your chest, but it kind of bothers me. So I try to save the paints for either like when I'm trying to cover up a mistake, or if I am doing it on a hoodie. A hoodie is thicker, it's a thicker fabric, but t-shirts are thin, and sometimes it might feel weird. Like say you brush your hand across your chest or something like that, you can feel the texture. It's kind of Sometimes you get over it because the picture is freaking awesome. Okay, now it looks like the blue that I put onto her ears didn't quite make it over. I had put like a little bit of remnant of blue onto her ears. I guess I'm going to have to make sure that like if I had like some residual color on the tip, so I just went around and started adding that color in different places until the tip was clean, and it didn't transfer over onto my image here. No worries, but it did in other places. Okay, so keep going, Kim. Alright, and we'll use a bit of yellow. Okay, so I have the board underneath. Let me make sure I have my source image next to me so I can kind of remember what the colors were. Slide. Okay. So now, at this point, now I have all the freedom in the world to do whatever the hell I want, and a wider range of colors. So I'm going to use a little bit of this pink here, just to kind of put where the highlights are. And I'm going to drop my board down. It's not, the board's not going to be directly underneath this, because it doesn't, I don't need that extra support. Whenever I'm like drawing, like say I need to add something here, then I'd bring the board up. But when it comes to coloring, right now you don't want that like right up underneath, because this shirt will bleed the hell out. It's what do you call those people that are a hemophiliac? This thing will hemo all over your damn shirt. It'll go right outside your lines. So you don't want to put too much color in there. So you want to hit it like a couple times, and say I want to get a little bit of a gradient going. I'm going to use my blender. I'm going to use the one that I've been using all this time. I'm going to save this one kind of for flesh tones like oranges and stuff like that, and then this one I'll just use for whatever the hell I want. Okay, so this stuff is so forgiving if you don't bleed. But yeah, you put the color down and you can move it. You can get it to soften. You don't want to, again, you don't want to oversaturate, because if you oversaturate, it's going right outside the lines. So, and it doesn't hurt to just wait a little bit and let it kind of dry. Or if you're really lucky, you have a dryer next to you, either a hair dryer or like a heat gun, like an artist heat gun. These things are the bomb. Okay. So now I'm just going to give her some contours. And I'm going to, what I really want to do is soften up that tail. So now I've got like some nice feather blending. I'm going to bring the camera down just a little bit so you guys can see exactly what's going on, but bear with me because sometimes I forget to lift it back up. So if you're in the chat, please let me know if you can't see or hear anything. That would do me a solid. Okay. Alright, so now you can kind of see that it's softer. Her face is a little softer. And again, my board is down beneath. That way anything underneath here won't get the colors. Okay, so I want purples and blues right here. So I'm going to put this at the tip. And I'll show you how the colors will blend into each other. Let me get this. What you want to do is you want to get it saturated to the point where the color is on there. You can lighten up your touch a little bit. So like say you need just a little bit of blue peeping over. So this has got a lot of blue here. And it's also good to know your fabric. Like I know now that this thing bleeds like you wouldn't believe. So I'm trying to be mindful of how much I put down. Okay, so here's the purple. I hate that frickin' chisel tip. Okay. The new markers I have that aren't chisel tipped. They're bullet tipped. Okay. There we go. So you have a little bit here, and you just kind of overlap the colors to where you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. And I'm just softening up these lines that I created. Now to speed things up, it's good to have a a heat gun. I don't have my heat gun out right now, so I'm going to kind of keep going. And if you want it to kind of look shiny, leave like a little white area. Okay, let's see. And then I want to get a little bit darker. Okay, you don't want to oversaturate. And what I mean is it'll get too wet and then start to bleed. So it's good to work when you have a fan nearby or some air. And then just take a break from that area and go on to something else. Go on to another area and work on that. Let that dry before you add anything else onto it. And then you can add more details. And you know, you can control your pressure with a fabric marker than you can with the other markers. The other markers is just solid colors. But this right here, you can just get some really good gradients and whatnot. Get it softer. So I'm thinking about putting a little bit of purple in her face as well. Just gonna have like a little bit of blue, and then maybe just a little hint of purple. Just a little. And then I'm just gonna kind of blend that through. And just kind of tease it outwards. And another way of doing gradients is like you just lay down a color and then just tease that color out. And let's see if I can find a little area to do that on. Let's see. See here, it's bleeding. This was a little oversaturated, and it looks like it's about to bleed here too. So like if you ever have a problem with something bleeding like this, let it dry and then go back over it with a black marker. It'll be a darker a bigger outline, but at least you'll be able to fix the mistake. So it's good to have a shirt to test first of the, like say you have some extra shirts. That way you kind of eliminate a little bit of the frustration. And just use a little bit because these guys are wet. The markers, they're pretty juicy, and this might bleed onto her face, so I just gotta be prepared for that. Okay, I'm just gonna add a little bit of shadow underneath things. So yeah, getting a heat gun out to kind of stop it from bleeding like that. Let's just dry it faster. Especially if you want to keep layering more colors on top. So what I'm doing is just trying to soften up these hard lines. I'm so soft, so soft. Now it really doesn't matter if you're going up and down or round and round. If you want to really get in there, going round and round will get you into the texture here. And you don't want to leave it like this with these little streaks. It's just ugly. Unless that's part of the design. but it looks, if it's not intentional, it looks bad. So I urge you to kind of soften it up a bit. That way it doesn't look so bad. And that could just be moving the line a bit, enhancing the, you know, just kind of softening it up. See, I'm softening it right now, and it looks a lot better than what it did, if I do say so myself. And then I'll use a little bit of the blender to kind of bring those two colors together and just kind of soften, fill in some of the white. And again, if the color comes out too fast for you, just go ahead and put a little bit here or on any kind of little plastic, and then just take a little bit at a time and add it. And that'll give you a little bit more control than the marker just coming right on out at you. That's what I do with my Crayolas. And you can also use your paintbrush. Let me see, I think I brought a paintbrush out. So like if your marker tip is too fat for certain areas, you can do the same thing. Let me see if I can find a little area. Let's see. So like maybe somewhere in her eyes here, I might want to put a little bit of blue, but I don't want it to come all out like this. Here it's really bleeding like right here on the edge. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like right here is bled. So I'm going to make a little dab of blue here on this little plastic here. It doesn't dry right away. And then I'll just kind of paint it on in. And it gives me a lot more control than using straight up marker. So if I just need just a little bit, or if I need this to be a lighter blue, just go ahead and bring in a little bit of paint. Come on, paint. This one's almost done. Let's see, I'll just use the tip, the cap. Just take a little dab of the white paint. It looks like that's dry. Yeah, this stuff is dry. Usually you can use the cap. Let's turn this upside down for a while. This white might be enough anyway. Let's see, I don't need like a big dab of white, just get a little drop there. That'll work. And you can add that to the white of your eyes, white of your teeth if you want, or you can take a color here, put it to the side, and say I want like maybe a blue-green. I can add a, let's see, I don't even have green out. It doesn't matter. Okay, you can take two different colors and then just kind of mix them together. So you just kind of dab the white in there, make another little palette, and voila, I have a lighter blue that I can use anywhere on here. And I'm just kind of adding that on in there. Just like a little highlight. Now you can even throw the paint on there, and it may even mix with what's already on the shirt. Paint will definitely layer for you. You do want to work with your light colors first, unless you come back and add paint. And it's just a smidge, it's not a lot. Let's see, I'm going to just kind of do like a bit of white mixed in with the yellow here to give it that highlight in her hair. Yeah, so whenever you have something that doesn't come with, like a set that doesn't come with a certain color, like if you buy the Crayola version of fabric markers, not all of them have a brown, unless my brown was stolen. Not all of them have a brown, so you can make colors and then bring it on in. Or you can buy like a different set of markers. The more variety that you have, the more flexibility you'll have. So it can't hurt to have both fabric markers and some paints standing by. Now these markers are permanent, but I'm curious to see if they'll last even longer, because the base is what's it called? The infusible, and they're already more vibrant than they would be on a regular shirt. Crap, we got an hour. Where does the time go? Okay, so here's a really good view where the yellow is mixing in with the red. The infusibles won't do that. Okay, so now that I've got them kind of saturated, I gotta let it dry or else it's gonna bleed. Color theory works really well with fabric markers. Say you need a deeper, darker color of red, you can use a brown, and that'll bring out a deeper, darker red. Like using the opposite color on the color wheel will help you too. Okay, so this is almost, yeah, this is dry. So if I want to, I can layer more color onto that. Now, I like the effect that I'm getting right here. It's kind of light, like it's reflecting the skull or something like that. So I'm going to keep that with a light blue. And then right above it, I'm going to put like a darker purple. Let's see, the opposite of purple is like yellow on the color wheel, I believe. I think. Well, let's see. It doesn't matter right now. But I can either use a black. I'm using a yellow. Now, yellow and blue make green. These colors will turn into the other color. So you have that, and you just go over it with your marker. And that'll give you a darker color. So whatever the complement is on the color wheel, you can get away with it doing that. Or you can do like straight up black. Let's see. Oops. So that's if you're like really super limited in your another chisel tip. I guess this whole box is chisel tip. I'm just using a deeper purple for like shadowing purposes. And just adding a little bit because it's going to start to bleed on me. I'll just add a little bit. So if you're like adding highlights and things like that, make sure you add you want to do your light to dark. So make sure you have your light colors on first. And then let it dry and see how it dries for you. Sometimes it might dry a little bit lighter. Sometimes it might dry a little bit darker. You just don't know. So experiment as much as you can. I didn't like the fuchsia on here. And don't trust the tips. They give you an idea, but they're not perfect. So if you can, look at that, it's already bleeding. If you, right here too. And here, yeah, so you got to go easy on the colors. You got to kind of let it dry, come back, let it dry, come back. Make yourself like a little chart. That way you know what colors do what. And try to blend them together with each other on the chart as well, so you know what colors make the best skin tones, what colors make you know, that look really great together. That'll save you some time as well, and having to go back over things. You know, it's like, ew, I didn't like how that looked, that type of thing. So I'm gonna, like I just did here, but it's not gonna hurt anything. It still looks cute. Ooh, this one's really juicy. Yeah, so if your markers are juicy like that and you're comfortable with a paintbrush, you can always just kind of let the juiciness flow here and then use your paintbrush and go over things. And like I said, I do that with my Crayolas, because Crayola will come all over your paper. It'll come out on your paper, and it will oversaturate your paper sometimes. So to avoid that, you know, kind of nip it in the bud and control the flow. Use it like a watercolor without putting water in it, because it's watery enough as it is. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of this white here. Whoops. I think that's dry. That's dry already. Let's try this one. Nope, that's dry too. Okay, good to know. But yeah, Tulip also, not Tulip, I'm sorry, Arteza also has fabric paints too. But they come in like these itty bitty tubes, or little tiny 2 milliliter bottles. Well, not even milliliter. They're just like these really small pissant bottles, 2 ounces, if anything. And once it runs out, you're out. You can't buy them individually. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You get the set, and then you gotta just be careful with it. But I do like how the markers are a lot more vibrant on this fabric. Now, if you don't know how you want to color things, it doesn't hurt to get a source image of how something is colored, and that might help you as well. Okay, let's see, I've got less than an hour. So I'm just kind of hitting it once, and I'm going to let it dry, because I don't want these to bleed. There we go. Now these colors will reactivate other colors. So if you are of the mind to, like, say you just got off of doing, using these guys will put on themselves on top of each other, and they won't bring out the other color. These guys will. You can really do some interesting things with these type of fabric markers. Let's see, I think this is that blue that I used down here. I'm going to use a little bit here underneath the skull. Now you also have the choice of going over the infusible ink that's on here. So like this is blue, I can turn that red with the fabric marker. The tail has a little bit of blue in it, and black. So I can just kind of do this sort of thing to hide my bleeding. And just give it like a harder line. And then I can always come back with a black marker and just kind of make it smoother. Yeah, I like how this is coming together. So if you want to make it look like colors are blending with each other, you just kind of, you're going to have to saturate it just a bit with each other. So you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. And it looks pretty gosh darn good. And it doesn't hurt to use black or a darker color to get what you want. Okay, so that's like what her hood looks like. Her tail looks a lot better, but we'll do a little bit more work on it. It's not evil looking enough, so we'll probably throw some black on there. Okay. And say you don't have a colorless, like you don't have a colorless blender. If you have a dried out marker, you can use that to kind of rub the colors together. You know, I think the pink is a little, it's not as wicked looking. So I'll probably need to throw some black in there. I'm going to use the darker purple. I think this will be a darker purple. Now, one of the things about Arteza, and I don't know if this is what made them change, was that on one side of the marker, one side of the marker would be like darker than the other. So like this color here would be different from this color here. Like this one might be redder than that color. It's very strange. Let's see. We've got gray here. Now, Arteza had like 3 different colored grays. They had like an elephant gray, they had, I can't remember the other, a dolphin gray, I don't know. These guys were pretty wet too. Let's see, and I might use this instead of black, because these grays are very dark. And the only way you can really tell them apart is when you have them all like next to each other. So I'm just going to kind of blend this gray in. Where I want it darkest. Let's see, and it looks like it's bleeding a little bit. Let's see, where else can I put it? Let's see, put it like right here. Put a little bit here. Just to kind of enhance the design that was on here. And again, in order to keep, like this one just came out like water. To control it, you can move it off to the side and, you know, control it this way. Just take a little bit of that and just kind of use it in different places to kind of enhance some of the shadows. Kind of and then just kind of soften up some of the other shadows. Give her a little bit of dark tones under her eyes. Evil doesn't sleep well. And just kind of let that dry so it doesn't like look like a wet splotch. A little bit of the blue. So yeah, add your colors, let it dry a bit, come back to it, add a little bit of something here and there. I usually use 3 colors. Look at that, that bled like a bad dog. Yeah, it's bleeding really bad now. You can see it. So this fabric, even though the stuff comes out really bright on it, may not be the most ideal for fabric markers because of the bleeding. But other t-shirts, they're not that bad. Usually other t-shirts aren't that bad. But then again, not all of them come out this vibrant either. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so while that is going to be drying, let's see. I'm just going to plan my attack in other places. You don't want to reposition while it's wet. I urge you to like throw it underneath a fan. I apologize if you hear my fan in the background here. It's kind of hot now. Yesterday it was freezing my tits off, and then today I'm like, oh my god. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, the mouse. We'll use a little bit more of this on the mouse. And again, they don't make these anymore, I don't think, or sell them. If you could find them, they're pretty cool. Yeah, if you're a fan of the chisel tip, that's there for big areas. And then you've got your bullet tip. And instead of going directly onto the fabric, I'm going to do my little trick again, where I just see how fast it comes out. It's like, and if you leave it on your fabric, it'll just spread out, just like the bleed here. So you want to keep, if you're doing fabric coloring, you want to keep that your marker moving. You don't want to leave it in like one spot. And you don't want them to like, and make sure you get to the habit of putting your caps back on, because if you have a cap that's off and your shirt's right next to it, your shirt is messed up. Made that mistake a couple times. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that dark gray and just kind of add it here. But I don't like using this brush, so I'm going to use a little bit of this because it's a little juicier. And just a little bit goes a long way, and just keep it moving. And you can just kind of blend it into whatever you're doing. Just trying to get that shadow going. It's supposed to be a skull. Now the thing about fabric color is that you want to what's the word? You want to iron it, you know, heat set it before you wash. The Tulip you don't have to heat set, and the Marvies you don't have to heat set. Tulips and Marvies you don't have to heat set. Fabric color you do. Let's see, and that might have been another factor of why some of my stuff would fade, because I used a combination of things that need to be heat set with things that didn't need to be heat set. And that's as easy as just tossing it in the dryer for about 30 minutes. If you're not allowed next to hot things. Okay, so to give her a gradient looking here, just want to make it look like her chin is higher and not on the same layer as or level as the hair. I'm just going to kind of paint a little bit of that in there, just a little. Just darken some of the other areas here because it's coming out of the darkness. Yeah, and once you've done a few of these, you'll get your confidence up. I know some people are like, yeah, I can't do it. Oh shoot, look, it's already bleeding because the board was right underneath it. So what I would do, because it bled like that, I'd let it dry and then come back with the blue and see if I can kind of work it into the rest of the face. Yeah, the board underneath did not do me any favors. But this is how bad it bleeds. Usually other shirts are not this bad. And either that, like I'll let it dry, and then I could either go over with white and paint that out, or I can work it in with blue. Like right now I've got my finger between the board and the artwork. I can even drop it down a little bit. Okay. So normally I would let this dry and then come back to it, but I think you guys get the gist. Sometimes it's easier on the bleeding to work at it at an angle. I don't know if that'll work for you. Gravity, you know, and whatnot. Just put this in her ear here. I don't want to give her like a beard. So I'm going to let that dry and then I'll add some white. Annoying. Yeah, I was just talking about that. Now, if you have that problem as well and nothing seems to work, just go ahead and color the whole thing a certain color. That might help. You can try to put hair in the way. You can probably kind of change the outline a bit by adding more black. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry because it's pretty saturated in some spots. Let's see. And while I'm letting this dry, that way I can come back and fix this later. And make sure that you have this set somewhere where nothing's going to touch it, and you don't want it to fall on your clothes because it is permanent. Alright. I wanted to color. What time is it? I still have like a half an hour. Okay, this guy. I made him bigger, so when I do go to ironing it onto the back of that shirt, I'm going to end up cutting out this outline here. I didn't even think to just go ahead and erase it. Dog cam. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get it started. I made 2 copies just so that I could have one for outline and the other one for, I got the wrong size. Okay, so I'm going to use that trick again that I showed you, and I want to get like a gradient, and I want to do his face using whatever I've got here. So I'm going to get rid of these guys. I'm going to use a fresh marker. Okay. God, dandruff, where's my black? Is it on the bed? Can't win. Okay. I want to color in his hair. Okay, we'll just color in something else. Let's see, butterscotch is good for my skin. Let's see. This is sunflower. Sunflower comes out kind of yellowish. This is orange peels, not too bad. This is coral. So you think this would be like a yellow, but it's more of it looks more like a skin tone, I think. So I'm going to color all his skin in this tone, but I'm going to kind of be a little bit more strategic. Let's see. Where's my clipboard? I swear, I carry things all over the damn house. Okay. Bump it. No flippy board. Okay, so. Now I'm not going to stress if I have streaks, because I know more than likely I'm going to come back over and color it again. But if you keep the lines closest to each other, like you work in small areas, that way your color tones are more or less the same. Might have an easier time of it. Just kind of work small if you can. Just give it like a 1 stroke. Stroke it to the left, to the right. And I'm using the side of the marker to do this. Not necessarily the tip itself. And just doing strokes next to each other. I'm gonna let that dry because it comes up on us. Just kind of work in small areas. And this dries pretty fast. Now I want to kind of color it like with flat shading. So I go through and let me bring this down a little bit. Okay, so I go through like with one stroke, and then when I'm ready to do the shadowing or the darker, I just go over it again. And just try to remember that it's I'm flat shading. Let's see, we'll make this his shoulder. Let's see, and that's underneath his merce. I'm just trying to get them as close together as possible, so when it dries it's a little bit more uniform than if you're just like kind of scribble coloring. And then just keeping in mind that anything that's above is going to cast its own shadow. And you might even have a shadow on this side. There'll probably be like a little bit of a shadow under his nose, where his eye kind of overlaps, where his hat overlaps. And I'm just going to turn the paper so I can kind of get the smallest area first. Now the marker should be just about dry. But yeah, so I would invest in a hairdryer or an art hand, like a, what is that called? Like a heat gun. So like if you're going to color by hand, you can offset the bleeding by drying it really fast. I wish this was like a Copic where if you go over it like once, all of it kind of blends in. And then when you overlap, that's when you can get your shadows. Like right here. And I'm using like long strokes instead of like little tiny ones. If you want to show texture, that's one way of doing it, is making little strokes. I was thinking about outlining it a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't look too bad. Oh, let's see. I want to hear the music. Let me turn this up a little bit. There we go. Let's see. I think that's all of his skin. Yeah, okay. Let's see, and I'm thinking about either using this one or orange peel as the shadows. Just a little bit darker. Put it under like the hardcore shadows. That might be like a little too orange. It probably looked better the way it was. Well, we'll see. Let's see, orange. I guess I have my orange. There's orange peel for his goggles. Where is this sunflower? I should have used sunflower for the skin. We'll see if it dries. I can see if I can go over it. This is Rose. Let's see what Rose looks like. Corals was tiny. Kind of look like this. So everything that is covered up by the marker will not come out as yellow when I go to press it. Because he's anime, he is outlined. trying to vary the size of the lines a little bit. Let's see, this little strap looks like it's like a tan color. See, these are a little red. Okay, let's see. This part is white, so I'll just use a little bit of hint of blue. Okay, and in a second we'll go back to the other shirt. Now on him, he's got like gradients on his hat. I want to put gradients on his hat and this little belt area. Nice and juicy. Not this one. Where's the other one? Oh well, I guess I'll use it after all. Wait. It's not there. Okay. I didn't want to bust into this one just yet, but it is what it is. Take it out. And you see how I can get like a softer tone. Like this is what it looks like when it just comes straight on out. And if you saturate it a little bit, the paper, you can move the blue a little bit more. If it's too faint, it's not going to show. Okay. You can get probably like his teeth too. I'm not going to define each tooth, but Just kind of give it a shadow. Speaking of shadow, we'll just give it a little bit of shadow here. Alright, and then we'll kind of wipe this off here on his hat. Yay, today is Friday. Friday. Alright. Now I want to do the same thing with the skin. You use the sunflower. Just kind of give it a little something here. Alright, okay, so his pants are like a little bit yellow-orange-ish. Let's see. Oops. Back this up a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to have to get going pretty quick, so let me get this part going. Find my black. This one, since it's pants, I'm not really worried about things overlapping and texture. And this is brown in here, so I'm just throwing a little color in here. I just kind of have brown pop in here. I don't have very many brownish colors. Let's see. I think this might be the closest thing. Yeah, this is gray. It's not brown. This dusty rose might be the closest thing I've got. I'm going to use a little bit of it here in the shadows. Alright, that's as far as we're going to go on that. Alright, so let's fix a little bit of this here. We'll see if I can cover it up with the paint. Good luck on that. This brush might be too big. Let's see what this one does for me. Make sure it's not too dirty. Defeat the purpose. Okay. And I'll just put it under a fan. And I'll just go ahead and spread the paint around so it doesn't look like a goatee. Oops, sorry, can't see. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry. We put a little bit more paint on here. Just so it doesn't look so weird. Just kind of use this as a highlight. I don't really like using paint pens on here either. It's almost like using acrylic. Like say I wanted to use a gold paint pen on here. Over time that too will fade. It won't look gold anymore. So if you can, find anything that has fabric paint to it. Don't rely on like acrylic pens or paint pens. You might not get the really good results. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to let this go ahead and dry, and I'll come back and probably do some outlining, and this is going to be pretty much done. I might do something to the chips or to the keyboard, make it a little bit more wicked, but yeah, it looks a lot better than it did. See, now the tail has more gradients in it. I can always come back in and make it deeper, darker, just like the hood here. So play with your colors. I usually use 3 colors, no less than 3 colors. A light color, a medium tone, and a dark tone, or black. And fill that bad boy in. I think I'll do this one. I'll do this one on the back of the shirt, and then I'll do one where I'm just using a regular cotton shirt, so you guys can see what a cotton shirt would look like with this stuff on here, and then we'll use fabric markers to clean it up. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll probably just add a little bit of things to this. If I do have any other changes or anything like that, I will go ahead and show it in the next video before I move on to the next thing. So here's what it looks like. It's kind of pretty. I'd wear it today, but you know, it's cold outside. So I'll probably wear it to bed. I don't know. We'll see how it goes after I've added more stuff to it. But yeah, it looks kind of cute. This would look really good on a coaster for my gaming friend. Alright, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you like what you see, like and subscribe, and maybe I can share some more tips with you. And I'll definitely let you know if, I don't know if you can see it because it's so bright, but it's yellow. There's a yellow mark left. Let's see if I move my light. There it is. You can just barely see the ghosting of it. This is from the printer, and it's just the outline. So when I get ready to do this one, I'm going to cut this out, and then in a couple days I'm going to wash this shirt and see if this goes away. Alright, you guys have a good one. Take care. Bye bye.